How to build a profitable music career in 3 steps. Is it even possible? And is it really that simple that you only need 3 steps to really start and kick off your music career and have a profitable, good music career? I've been on this search for 7 years, like I think even over 7 years at this point. I've tried everything to get away from record labels, from the Spotify earning blueprint, whatever most musicians want to use as their business model. And so I've been on this search to find something that helps me with my music career, but doesn't involve a record label, doesn't involve going viral on a social media platform, doesn't like rely on Spotify streams and all that good stuff. And I'm like, is that even possible? Is it even possible to find something like that? Is there a business model that allows you to have that music career in just 3 steps? And like I said, it took me a couple of years to figure it out, but I've gotten there. And yes, it is simple as these 3 steps. Now, before I get into that, I just want to explain how I found this business model, because it didn't just like fall into my lap and like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I need to do it like this. Like, this was years and years of failing and trying things that just did not work out, and really just discovering what didn't work, to be honest, and almost giving up. So I've always been passionate about music. I've been writing songs since I've been 12, and there was a very pivotal moment in my life that I'm not going to get into right now that completely switched the way I viewed life. And I'm just like, I'm going all in music. And that's when decided that I'm going to go to England, I'm going to go to Birmingham, and I'm going to study popular music performance. And it was an amazing experience. I wouldn't change it for the world. I got so much better as a musician, as a songwriter, as a producer, even as just my music theory got better, and therefore my songwriting. I learned to, perform, how to perform on stage, how to capture a crowd, and really how to work with other musicians, how to work in a production studio together with them, how to communicate, how to delegate or not delegate, but how to have a band rehearsal that is very productive and all that stuff. So I learned how to be a great musician. And so when we got to the music business module, I was super excited, because I'm like, okay, finally, we've been working on all these skills and we've been better as a musician, and now it's finally time to start making money with my music, right? They're going to teach us how to do that. And I sat in that class and I'm like, oh, it was very underwhelming, because what they taught us to do is just to get signed to a record label. So the music business class was really about how record labels work, how they operate, all their different um departments, what they're there for, what they should be doing, what they don't do, how to, navigate all of that, and what like learn how to get discovered. And then once you're discovered, what to look out for when you sign your the deal and sign to the record label. And we learned all these nuances and all that stuff, and the more I was just learning about it, the more in my head I was just going like, oh my gosh. Like, this sounds like playing the lottery with my music career. Like, I can't believe that this is what they're teaching us, because there were a lot of ifs and buts involved in this. Because if you get signed, and if you have yeah, if a label discovers you, and if you get a record deal, it's going to swing in the favor of the record label, because you as a musician, you're going to be probably new and small, and so you will have no leverage. And with leverage, I mean you have no fans, you're not making any money, you don't have an email list, you don't have anything that you can use and say like, hey, I've already been building this community, I already have this fan base, I'm already making some money. But as the label can you amplify that? And that usually doesn't happen, therefore you have no leverage and the label gets to decide what they want. And so of course they're going to take all the rights to your music, or more specifically take the um the name just escaped me. They're going to uh master. Sorry. They're gonna take the mastering rights from you, and the money they do give you is a loan, and that you need to pay all that money back before you can even see a cent from any of your uh from any of your royalties. So it might sound good in the beginning and you're like, "Oh my gosh." So there is a time and a place where you do want to sign to a record label, but it is definitely not in the beginning of your music career. So if you follow the advice I'm going to give you now and you start building your music business, now you're building your obviously earning money, you're building a fan base, you're building a email list, you're getting all this leverage. So then now when you sign or when you want to team up, if you even want to team up with a record label, you already have all this leverage and you're like, well, what can you do for me that I can't do for myself? And now you have leverage. Now you're talking. So yes, there is a time and a place for a label, not in the beginning of your music career. Um, of course, there are always exceptions to that, but you just have more control over your music career if you start a music business. And I will get into a little bit later. It's very easy. You only need two components to have and start a music business. But right now, I just want you to understand that a record label for me was just not an option because I was just determined to have control over my music career. So after I graduated, signing to a label was just not an option for me at all. And I'm like, I'm not ready to play the lottery with my music. And then if I do win the lottery, uh, it's not going to be in my favor, really. The deal is not going to be in my favor because I'm a small unknown artist. And so it's just not going to work out. So after I graduated, by the way, so you know I'm not making up stuff. I'm going to cover my real name here, but this is my degree. Okay. So before people are like, well, anyone can say that. Here's my degree. Okay. um, so after I graduated with honors, by the way, but after I graduated, I made it my mission to find a way to make money with my music without a record label. And you find things, like people have opinions on YouTube and they have ideas and stuff, right? And so the next thing, and so this is what I call them, by the way, this is the first level out of 3, and the first level is what I call music industry thinking. Okay, so I moved from music industry thinking into the second tier, which is where most of you are, is the indie artist thinking. And that sounds pretty reasonable, because obviously if you're not signed to a label, then the other option is to go indie, like be an indie artist. Okay, so that's what I then discovered after I graduated. I'm like, okay, then I guess I'm an indie artist. And I realized really quickly that if you're an indie artist, you have the same problem, just in a different color, right? Because now instead of relying on a record label, now you're relying on Spotify most of the time. So you're putting all your hopes onto Spotify by uploading your music onto Spotify or other, like through a distributor like CD Baby, DistroKid, all those distributing platforms, and then you put them on Spotify, iTunes, whatnot. Um, and then when you promote your music, you send them to your Spotify account. So pre-save my album, go listen to my music on Spotify. And everyone is trying to build these, trying to build their streams on Spotify. And so gurus out there will tell you, hey, just get more, you just need more streams, and you get more streams by getting on big playlists. And that's then when you make money, right? And then actually, realized, like, there are a lot of musicians that were just not happy with the situation. They're like, "Spotify doesn't pay much. Like, I'm getting all these streams, and at the end of the day, I get, like, $10 for all this work." Um, sorry. And yeah, you should be upset because we're putting our heart and sweat and soul and money and energy and time into our music, and it is a lot of work, and then you get like a fraction of the penny. So I looked at the numbers because my dad would always tell me like numbers don't lie. And I'm not doing complicated math here. It's just very, very simple. So I just kinda looked at what the numbers are. So what are the streams? So on average, this might vary, of course, but on average, let's say it's $0.004 per stream. So it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny that you're getting per stream. So if you want to make this your full-time gig, you will have to make at least minimum. This might sound like a high number, but it's really not. If you want to make $4,000 a month, that's before taxes, right? So 4,000 might sound like a lot, but if you think about it, 4,000 um is yeah, so that's before taxes. So you need to pay your taxes, then you have expenses, and then you still need, you want to pay your rent and all of that. So that's like minimum that you need to say, okay, I want to quit my full-time job is 4,000 a month. So if I multiply for $0.004 per stream um times a 4,000, then I need a million streams, a million monthly streams. That's a lot. Like if you're a small artist, that's a lot of streams. And that's not a one time, that's like monthly. So you would need monthly 1 million streams to make, let's say, minimum wage of $4,000 a month. So I'm like, that is pretty much unachievable for a small artist like me. Like I'm putting all this time and energy, even if I say, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm not saying you can't, you definitely can, but I'm saying there are way easier ways to do this than through Spotify. And so one, Spotify pays you jack, and then the second thing is you're building a business on a platform that doesn't belong to you. So Spotify can say, "Hey, you're using AI bots, you're growing too fast," and they can just shut down your account for whatever reason, and then boom, everything you've built is gone overnight. So that's like another thing you have to think about. And I've heard this quite a lot because through my podcast, I got to talk with a lot of musicians, and of course, as a musician, you know musicians and you talk. And I've heard this a couple of times that their accounts were just shut down for whatever weird reason, and it's a hassle to kind of get it back. And so I just want to show you that one, s- it's not a Spotify is not a business model. So I'm not hating and bashing on Spotify. That's not what I'm trying to do with this. I'm trying to just show you that Spotify is not a business model and that you need to get your expectations right. If your expectations are to make money on Spotify, you're obviously being disappointed. But if you want to use Spotify to get exposure and get your name out there and to feel legit as a musician, because let's be honest, unfortunately, if you say you're a musician and then your friends are like, "Oh, cool, like what's your Spotify handle?" You're like, I don't have one," then you don't feel legit as a musician, unfortunately, kind of. But you don't have to use it as a business model, right? That's what I'm gonna go get into next, and this is what this entire video is about. But the music industry thinking is keeping you stuck. And then we move on to the indie artist thinking, which is keeping you broke. And once we free ourselves from this, oh, Spotify is there for exposure, but not to make me money. And there is a time and place for Spotify, just like there's a time and place for um a record label. Like I like to say there's a time and a season for everything. But if you're starting out as a new artist, then starting with Spotify is you're in hard mode. You're in beast mode to make money. Like it's really, really hard. And unfortunately, that's where most musicians go, and then they are upset and mad at Spotify because they're not paying them fairly. So we need to change the game. Don't get mad at the game. Like you need to then change your mindset and therefore change your business model. And that's when I then realized, okay, so Spotify isn't serving me either. Not only is it nearly impossible to get those streams to get a little bit of money, but it also I'm building my hopes and my music career on a platform that doesn't belong to me that can just like that end my music career. Um, so if I do build it on there, you just kind of need to be aware of what's happening. Okay, so that's level number 2. And then level number 3 is what I now call the musicpreneur way of thinking. Right? So step 1, level number 1 is the indie artist thinking, which keeps you stuck. Then we usually go into the indie artist thinking, which keeps us broke. But now I want to show you a third option that nobody talks about, that I don't hear anyone really talking about, is after years of trial and error and almost giving up, I found the musicpreneur way of thinking, which gives you the actual freedom to do what you want, to create what you want, to brand what you want, to charge what you want, and have the control you want. That will actually help you grow your business, to attract fans, to grow your business, and to really have the freedom you're actually looking for. And that's when I then kind of found this musicpreneur blueprint that I now call the Musicpreneur Blueprint. But then I started the podcast, and that's when I talked about with a lot of musicians, from amateur musicians to musicians earning 6 to 7 figures a year. If you don't believe me, just go into my podcast. I interview musicians that are actually making that money, and I wanted to know what makes them successful. Like, what is the difference between a musician who makes no money and a musician who's earning 6 to even 7 figures a year? And I found patterns through my interviews, through being around other musicians, through trying and failing myself. And then I discovered this business model, and it's something I now call the FBI system. So not only did not only did I study popular music performance and have a bachelor degree in music, not only did I start a podcast and talk to almost 100 different musicians and recognize these patterns, but I took over the family business because my grandpa died and they needed someone to take over the business. And so I took it over. And as I was running the business for a couple of years, I wanted to know, like, what makes a good business. What does a business need to be successful? And with successful, I mean turn a profit. Like, you need to make money, right? And this is where I said this is where I found patterns. So not only with the music, but patterns in business in general. And that's when I found like these similarities where I'm like, this is everywhere. Like every business needs this. Like in order to have a successful music business, you need 3 components, 3 steps, right? When you have these, everything falls into place. And I kind of want to differentiate between someone who's just starting out and somebody who's already earning money and wants to grow their business. They're also 3 steps, a little bit different. So first I'm going to go um into the beginner business model, or the FBI, and then I'm going to go in the more advanced. So if you already have a business, music business, you're making money but you want to scale and grow and make more money, then I have a second method that will help you with that. So the Musicpreneur Blueprint is quite simple because when you think like a musicpreneur, it means that you don't rely on a record label, Spotify algorithms, or social media algorithms. You're taking your own music career and destiny into your own hands. That's what a musicpreneur is. It's a musician who thinks like an entrepreneur, and we're going to bring them both together because those are very different skills. So if you think about it, um, it's all about skill sets, right? If I have a skill, then it becomes easy. If you don't know how to play the guitar and I hand you a guitar and I say, like, just play me a song that you want, you're like, I can't play. Right? But if you hand me the guitar and you're like, just play whatever you want, it's easy for me because I have the skill of playing the guitar. And so for us, writing a song, producing a song, creating an album, it comes easy to us. It's not saying it's not, I'm not saying it's not work, but I'm saying it just, we don't really have to think about it. We just create it, right? Because we have the skill sets that allows us to do that. And so the more skills I stack, the more powerful I become. So you've been doing this naturally as a musician. You've been stacking skills like singer-songwriter. Those are already two skills, a singer and you're a songwriter. Maybe you're even a producer. Now you have three skills. Then you might mix and master your own songs as well. I wouldn't recommend, but you can still do that. Then maybe you're a multi-instrumentalist. Like maybe you play the guitar and the piano and the flute and like the violin or the cello. Like that's skill stacking. We don't really know that we're doing it. We're just doing it because that's what we love doing. So you've been stacking skills as a musician, and that's what makes you great as a musician. But having a music business, thinking like a musicpreneur, like an entrepreneur, thinking like a business, knowing how to market, knowing how to run a business, those are completely separate skills that I had to learn over the last 7+ years. I had to unlearn everything that people and gurus out there were teaching me, like just go viral on Instagram or TikTok and then go send them to your Spotify and try to get signed to a label. Like all that advice was hurting me. And I had to unlearn all of that and completely neglect that to realize that there was this whole new opportunity over here that I was neglecting and that I'm realizing the majority of musicians are neglecting, therefore they're broke, and you don't have to. Like that's the crazy part about this is nobody talks about this and I don't know why, and that's why I'm being super loud and obnoxious because musicians need to know about that. There's no reason to be broke as a musician. Like that's a mindset mentality thing. And so I hope I can get you out of that music industry thinking and that indie artist thinking and kind of have you see a glimpse of what it's like to be a musicpreneur. And so what my job is to help you skill stack those business skills because these are separate skills. It's not your fault. Like there's a quote, and I will quote it all the time because it really changed my life, and it changed the way I view success, how I achieve success on a regular basis. And it's a quote by James Clear from Atomic Habits. If you haven't read the book, you should absolutely read it. It's amazing. But there's one quote in there that just changed everything for me. And it says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your system. Again, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your system. So instead of questioning yourself and your goals and your talent and your music and thinking, am I enough? You should be questioning the system you're using. So instead of questioning if you're a good musician and if your music is good enough because Spotify is not picking up on it, maybe you should be questioning the system, aka Spotify, if Spotify is a good business model. And once I started to once I stopped judging myself if I was good enough as a musician and if my music was good enough and I was talented enough, and I started to question the system and the tool I was using, all of a sudden, now you're in the musicpreneur mindset. Now it's all about learning how to market your music for real. And what really ticks me off is marketing is super easy and it's super simple. But because gurus out there are giving bad advice, they mistake marketing for advertising. And advertising marketing is not the same thing whatsoever. When you understand the difference, marketing becomes fun, it becomes easy, and it becomes very tangible. But that's for a different video. um, right now, all you need to know is that it's not your fault. You've been just using the wrong system and listening to wrong advice. And why do I know that? Because I've done it. I've done it. I've learned the hard way. So I'm giving you the cheat code so you don't have to waste years like I did. You can, you know, fast track this with this system I'm about to show you right here. So this is the Musicpreneur Blueprint, okay? This is how musicpreneurs think. I want you to see this as an opportunity to grow your business skills, okay? You've stacked many skills as a musician, and now it's going to make you powerful because now you're going to start making money, right? You're a great musician, you're talented, you have great music out there. That's amazing. But in order to make money, that is a whole new skill on its own. These are business skills, right? That's marketing, that's selling, that's business growth, business strategy, and all that good stuff. Now, it's very simple. And if you follow these steps, you'll see that it is way easier than what most gurus are just kind of putting out there. Okay. So this is the Musicpreneur Blueprint. And this is what I call the FBI method. Okay. Or my FBI system. So the first step is the F. Duh. Okay. So we have the F. Then we have step number 2, which is the B. And then we have I. Okay. So we have the FBI method. I hope you can read it. Let's get a bit closer. Okay. Our FBI method. So this is for beginners. And this is this is the pattern that I've recognized over years now, almost a decade actually, by working in at the family business and just kind of looking at any business out there. It doesn't matter. They all follow these same steps. So one, the F for us musicians, it's fan attraction. Every business needs customers. If you can't get customers into your business, you're not going to have a business for very long. Okay. So for us, customers are fans. We just have a different word for that. So this is fan attraction. Fan attraction. Okay. So F. F stands for fan attraction. This is how we get people into our world, into our business. Okay. So B stands for business model. Business model. And as you can see, the business model that you're choosing is very important because right now, probably if you're watching this, the business model you're using is Spotify. And if you're here, it's not serving you how you wish it would. Okay. So we need the right business model. And then the I stands for identity. And in our case, it's the artist identity code that I developed. Artist identity code. Okay? Boom. This is the FBI method. So F stands for fan attraction, B stands for business model, and I is for identity, which is the artist identity code. This is the beginner business model. Just to kind of wrap this up, if you're more advanced, I'm not going to get into this in this video because if you're watching this, you're probably more of a beginner, but just saying, so if you're more advanced, then it's almost the same thing. It's FBN, not FBI. So we have the same thing. We have fan attraction because it doesn't matter at what level business you are or how much money you're making, you always need new customers. Then we still need our business model, but in this case, it's business growth. And then end state is for nurture. Nurture. I hope I spelled it right. Probably. I've always been really bad at spelling things. German and English doesn't matter. So if they're excuse me. Excuse me. If there are any spelling errors in there, I'm sorry. So if you're a more advanced musician who's already making some money, then your model is fan attraction, business growth, and nurture, right? So this is what I see in, like, it doesn't matter what business you have. This is the model. You can be selling music, you can be selling shoes, cars, TV, I don't care. As soon as you want to make money, you need a business. So that was like the first epiphany I had as a musician is we want to make money with our music, but we don't recognize that what we're actually then saying is you need a business, because there are two elements that you need to start a business, and that luckily only needs two components, which is super simple, right? Because people make it so complicated is because they don't really understand it deeply enough. For me, only when you can explain something simply in 3 steps, in a small framework, in 2 elements, then you understand something deeply enough because you've been either teaching it a lot, you've been thinking about it a lot. And so simplicity is the highest form of understanding, in my opinion, because only when you can explain something simple enough, you've understood it deep enough, because you need to know what to leave out and the little information to leave in. Because information, everyone can get information. Like through AI, it's super easy, right? But what is hard is knowing what information is relevant to you specifically to at this time in, like, wherever you are in your music career, right? And so that's my job, is to filter out what is important now and then what can be important later on down the road. But for right now, I'm going to focus on the FBI method. And maybe leave in the comments down below if you want to know the FBN method. If you're more advanced, then I can teach that. But for now, I'm just going to do the FBI method. So again, it's fan attraction, business model, and then the artist identity code. So the good news is, to start a music business, you only need 2 elements. One element is you need a product or a service, and the other element is you need to ask money for that. If you have those 2 things, congratulations, you have a business. Okay, so why these 2 elements? Well, because if you have a product or a service and you're not asking for money, then you're either a charity or a hobby. But on the other side, on the flip side, if you're asking for money, but you're not providing the product or service, now you're a fraud. So what would be a product or a service in our case? So a product would be our music, merch, tickets, stuff like that. A service on the other side is if you're a vocal coach and you're teaching someone, that is a service. If you're playing on somebody, you're your band is playing at a wedding, that is also our service. Um, right? So whatever you're doing, the value you're providing always comes down to a product or a service. I haven't seen a third option. If you know a third option, let me know in the comments down below. But so far, I haven't found anything that doesn't fall under these two buckets. Cool. Right. So these are the only two elements we need to have our music business, right? That's it. We need, that's the business model. Right? Is understanding what is a business, when do I have a business? And then we just need these two elements. So the FBI method, I like to go from back to front. Okay, I like to start in the back and then move to the front. Why? Because the identity is our foundation. If I don't know who I am as an artist and who my fans are, then it's really hard to build anything on top of that, because this is my foundation. This is what most musicians will skip over. They go straight to making the music because, yeah, that's the most fun to us, right? And so we just kind of skip over this identity part where we don't know what our brand archetype is, where we don't know who our fans are, who we're talking to, who we're making music for. And so knowing our artist identity code is extremely important. So if you want to know your artist identity, I have the artist identity code in my community. It's called the Musician Secrets Campus. I can link that up down below. You can sign up for that and go through that and find your artist identity. I go into quite a lot of detail into that. But I just don't have the time right now to do that in this video. So if you want to learn more about the artist identity code, there's a link down below to the Musician Secrets Campus, or you can scan this QR code over there if you're watching on the TV, and you can learn everything you need there. But that is our identity. This is our foundation. So this is where I want to start, because if I know who I am as the artist, who my fans are, then the next part becomes easier. And this is our business model. Now, if you're a beginner, then what I suggest is a monthly subscription. And yes, there are a lot of different business models, and I go into great detail what subscription model exactly, what to charge, what to do, and where to host it and all that. Like, I go into great detail in that, so I'm not going to go into that video. I'll link that video up here or link it down below, where you can learn more about what business model to choose, how to price it. This is where I really go deep into, the money-making side of things. All right. Again, because of time reasons, I just don't have time to go into that right now. Or again, in the Musician Seekers Campus, if you sign up there, I do live trainings, and I teach this also in great detail as well. Cool. Then we go into the last part, which is the fan attraction. Now, most gurus will tell you to go on social media. So go on Instagram, go on TikTok, do all that stuff, right? And for me, I found that social media is the fastest way to burn out, because you're constantly making new content all the time and you're running out of ideas. You're kind of sick and tired of all the everything and all the dancing and thinking about content and all that stuff. And so I found a platform that has over 2.5 billion users that are actively looking for songs and cover songs and how-to tutorials. And the shelf life is years and not hours. And the cool thing is, when I post there regularly, let's say once a week, then that compounds for me over time. So time is working for me, not against me. So I'm talking years, or until I take the video down, rather than hours, and then I have to feed it again and post every day, multiple times a day, and all that good stuff, right? And that platform I like to use for fan attraction is YouTube. That's what you're seeing me do right now. I'm using YouTube for my fan attraction. And yes, before you're like, at least that worked like 20 years ago with Justin Bieber. That were like the golden days of YouTube. Yes, true. But it's also the biggest opportunity that's overlooked by musicians because a lot of musicians think that the golden days of YouTube are over. And so nobody's really looking at YouTube right now. And I have an own separate video where I go into detail why YouTube, why so many musicians kind of left YouTube, and why it's the golden opportunity for you to either start or revive your YouTube channel, and how you can use it to make money. Okay. So I just like to use YouTube because it's less work and it actually builds my assets over time until I take the video down, rather than having to constantly think, what to post. And then it's like not relevant after a few hours anymore. Okay, so that's basically the my 3-step method. As you can see, it's very simple. So basically what you do is you use YouTube to attract your fans, then you use a subscription model for your business model, and then you would nurture, right? So if you're just starting out, you need to find your identity. You need to know who you are as a artist and who your fans are. Um, then we build our subscription model first before we open the doors to our fans. Because once I start getting fans, but I don't have a vessel to put them in, it's just gonna be super messy. It's like this glass of water, right? The the water are my fans, and the glass is my business. So if I have fans come in, but I don't have a business model in place yet, I'm not going to make money. The fans are just going to go everywhere. I need like a place where I can put my fans in, my money in, my expenses and all that stuff. It's like the business is your glass that keeps everything together. And so having the right glass is extremely important. And the the mo- most used glass is Spotify, and it's not working. It has holes everywhere and it's super narrow, right? And you need the right glass. And so that's why I like to use a subscription model, mm, just because it's predictable, reliable income. And if you want to learn more about that, then, like I said, you can either join the Musician Secrets campus community and come to my live trainings, or I have a video up here where I kind of talk about this business model and how to structure it and all that good stuff. But basically, this is what every business has: is you need fan attraction, you need business growth, and then you need to nurture those fans. Right? Those are the 3 steps that every business needs. I want you to recognize these patterns when you're going into Starbucks, when you go into Nike, when you go buy a car. I don't care what business you're going into, you will recognize these 3 patterns. You'll see, okay, they need fans, they need customers, right? Every business needs customers. Then when the customers come in the door, we need a business model. The right business model, our vessel, our glass that can hold those people and that money and those expenses. And then we need to nurture them, right? If you're missing one of these, it's going to be really hard to have a profitable business, because if you take out the fans, yeah, you might, or the customers, then you have a business model and you can nurture the fans that are already in your ecosystem. But at some point, you need new people coming in. But if I have fans and I nurture those fans, but if I'm not asking for money, then I'm broke, right? And if I have new people coming into my business, but I'm not nurturing them, then the hardest sale is always the first one. That's what they say. Because a buyer is a buyer is a buyer is a buyer. So I can either try to get a lot of fans in, or I can get less fans, but get more money from one fan, right? And so a buyer is a buyer is a buyer. And I only do that through nurturing those people. I can have all these new fans come in, but then leave right away. They give me money once and then they leave because I'm not nurturing them, not giving them a reason to stick around. So when I have these three pillars, I have a healthy, structured music business that will definitely help my music career to grow, to flourish, and that you could do this not only full time, but with good income. We're talking 6 to 7 figures, right? I explain all of that in the business model piece, obviously. Um, but basically, that's what these are the 3 steps. We need our fan attraction, we need our business part, and then we need to nurture them. But if you're new, then we take out the nurture and we replace it with the identity. Because if you're new to this, then you probably don't have your identity part figured out. And that's why I call it the FBI system. Fan attraction, business model, artist identity, code. Okay, well, this is basically the big overview. I have own dedicated videos that go into every section on its own. But for right now, I hope this was helpful to you, that you can just now see these patterns, these principles that will show you um, that this is a evergreen. Like, it doesn't matter when you watch this video, this will always be relevant. Nobody teaches this because it's not a hack. It's not cool to teach. Like, but that it's the truth. Like, just look at every business out there. You will see these 3 steps. Attract. You need fans, you need the right business model, and then you need to nurture them. Those are the 3 steps every single time. I know it's boring and it's not the sexy thing you want to hear, but it's the thing that works and that's true and it's a pattern. And the cool thing is when you recognize a pattern, you can rinse and repeat. You will always get the same results. Again, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So when you find a system, a pattern that works, you just model it, and guess what? You'll get the same or very similar results from that. Right? So you can watch this video whenever you want. This will always be relevant because this is evergreen. This is not a hack. This is not a quick fix. This is not this is like a principle. It's a pattern, a system that works, that will work for you, always will work, no matter who you are, what you do. This is basically just advice for just business general, but obviously for our musicians here, for us musicians, I just adapted a little bit. So we need our fan attraction, we need our business model, and then we need our foundation. If we're new, we need our artist identity code first. But other than that, if we're already doing what we're meant to be doing, then we need to nurture those fans, obviously. But in the beginning, I don't have fans yet, so I don't need to nurture them. And that's why we need to just figure out who we are first and why we're doing it, who our fans are. And that's what I call the FBI method. So yeah, that's what I teach. I teach evergreen systems that will work. I'm not interested in hacks or what works today. I want to find and recognize patterns and build systems that are repeatedly doing what they're supposed to do, because systems is what will get you to the goal, not your motivation, not how you feel today and what works today, but through systems and patterns that you see and recognize. Perfect. I hope this was helpful to you. This has definitely helped me shift my mindset from this music industry way of thinking to shift it to level 2, which is in music, the indie artist thinking. And now this is what I teach, is the musicpreneur way of thinking, because I don't see anyone talk about this. I see everyone talking about, oh, just go viral on TikTok. I see everyone talking about get more streams through playlisting on Spotify. Um, all that advice. And I just don't agree with that. And that's why I teach what I teach. And that's why I do what I do. And when you want to go deeper, and if you're like, heck yeah, I'm ready to start my music business, then you can join the Musicpreneur, the Musician Secrets Campus. The link is down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Mahalo.